When you talk about the museum, what comes to your mind? Is it the fact that the building is a place where old things are being kept, or is it a part of your heritage? I am Olohigie Ehigbai, and I say welcome to Heritage, where we expose you to the wonderful culture of your heritage. Today we will be looking at the museum, and someone will say the museum. Yes, I say the museum. So wherever you are, stay glued to your TV set because you're going to know more things about the museum. Museum can be defined as a building in which objects of historical, scientific, artistic, or cultural interest are stored and enlisted. The Benin National Museum is a museum in Benin City, Nigeria, located at the city center on King Square. The museum has a significant number of artifacts related to the Benin Empire, such as terracotta, bronze figurines and cast iron pieces. The National Museum of Benin City started from the Oba of Benin Palace in 1940s, but the edifice we see today was officially opened to the public on August 10, 1973. The museum contains priceless objects of antiquities from Benin Kingdom and other parts of the country.
If you want to trace the origin of the museum, we have to go back in antiquity to around 1946, when initially it was even within the confines, very close to the palace, the present location of the palace. But officially, we moved here and it was commissioned in 1973. That's when this museum came into being as a public institution. A typical museum like ours is a public institution. It is open to the public. That's what makes it a public institution. It acquires material evidence of man and this environment, which we simply call artifacts or antiquities. We do not only acquire these artifacts through different means, through donation, through seizures, when certain funny characters pillage shrines I want to sell to the whites. If they are caught, by customs, they are repatriated to the museum. So acquisition can come through that. Through outright purchase from bona fide owners of these antiquities. So through all these methods, the museum acquires. So we will not only do all that, we conserve these artifacts. We not only acquire and conserve, we present by way of exhibition to the public in an exhibit gallery and interpret these objects to the public, where we present them via didactics, that's the texts, and all that, so that the visitors and users of the museum can come and appreciate what we have on display. The purpose of doing all this is for the education of the public and their enlightenment and entertainment, something similar to what we do as journalists. So that's the nutshell, is how we operate. The basis of tourism development in Nigeria is cultural tourism, because that is what we have as a unique presentation to the world. Every other thing we do has one link or the other with global influence. Is it ICT? They are there ahead of us. Just name it. So the basic one we have that is unique, that foreigners would want to leave their country for, travel long distances, I want to come and behold, is cultural tourism. That is where the museum comes in. So the role of the museum, therefore, is just an aspect of this cultural tourism, so that we can contribute our own quota to the development of tourism in general in Nigeria. Of course, we know that via tourism, a lot of things can happen. Empowerment, the hotels are booked, mementos and souvenirs are purchased from local producers, and when they pay for them, they are empowered, and so on and so forth. So the museum does that. That is encourage the development of tourism generally via the prism of cultural tourism. By what we do, exhibit the artifacts I told you we acquire. So a National Museum Benin, for example, if I use it as a kind of microcosm, as a kind of state case study, we have an exhibit gallery that visitors and users can come and view our objects with the purpose of enlightening themselves about where we are coming from, so that we will have a better future, better today and better tomorrow. And in so doing, increase the tourism quotient in Nigeria.
It will shock you to know that the first known Benin museum started in the Oba Palace. Benin traditional art was becoming famous, and to preserve it, the Oba decided to assemble the artifacts under the custodian of Chief Jacob Ehigbai within the palace of the royal house of Iwebo. As time went on, people developed more interest in these treasures. There was pressure mounted for these objects to be made public. This collection was relocated to one room in the old tax office, Ring Road in Benin. The edifice that housed the artifacts today was built during Samuel Ogbemudia and was officially opened to the general public in August 1973.
Well, museum is very, very important in the sense that it keeps our cultural heritage, the traditional collections, the artifacts that tells the history of the people. And when people come to a place, they may visit the museum, and when they get there and see the curator, he will tell them the history of each collection or each artifact. And the visitor will now know the history of the place he or she is. For example, if you go to London and they take you to a London museum, you will see a lot of things about those people they colonized many centuries ago. That is the essence of museum. is there to educate people about people, culture, tradition.
Artifacts generally embody knowledge. Artifacts generally embody the history of the people. Artifacts embody the cosmology of the people. In short, artifacts embody the past of a particular people. The Benin Kingdom and Benin civilization, like we all know, the Benin Kingdom is the cradle of black civilization. Centuries ago, our forebears engaged themselves in the production of a lot of artwork, sculptures, akin to the one that we have in the Good Street today, for example. But in those days, there were palace activities, guilds were formed. You have the bronze casters, you have the wood carvers, and so on and so forth. And most of what they did reflected activities, court activities. That is why the Benin art for a long time was called the court art. So the pool of these collections that we had, in the past, resided in the palace. So we can call the palace as a museum of sorts, a museum without walls, a museum beyond the showcase, a museum where the artifacts are in situ in these sacred places where they function culturally. But by the time the museum acquires these artifacts and puts them in this our foreign influenced museum, because that's what we have, every museum like we have in our place here draws inspiration from the white man's perception of what a museum is. But what the black man believes that the artifacts should be in their natural environment, in shrines, in sacred places, and stuff like that. So when we acquire them, the knowledge embodied in these artifacts is what the museum communicates to the public. An artifact is different from a contemporary artwork in the fact that while a contemporary artwork or work only serves aesthetic purposes, decorative purposes, the artifacts, on the other hand, help to convey the history of the people, because it must have been used for one cultural activity or the other. That's what differentiates a contemporary artwork from the other. I'll give an example. If a community, for example, take the issue of Festac, 1977, we needed the mask of the queen, the Oba's wife, for Festac as a symbol, identity symbol of that festival. It was one of those stolen from the palace in 1897. They refused to give us, it was in the British Museum and it's still there. They refused to give to Nigeria for different funny reasons. And behold, a Benin man was commissioned, the name just escaped me now, was commissioned, I think a Mokpai, was commissioned to do a replica. So he produced then in 1977 a contemporary replica of that artifact. And it was not used for Festac. The fact that it was not used for Festac 77 made it an artifact. That's one explanation. But if he had made it and put it in the sitting room, that same mask, probably for fun, just went to his backyard and let me just produce something and put it there, it will not be an artifact. It will just be a contemporary artwork. But the symbol of Festac tells the story of Festac. The symbol of Festac is the identity symbol of that festival. Therefore, we can term it an artifact. So an artifact is not defined by age per se, but it's defined by its use.
The Benin National Museum contains artwork, artifacts, and relics of the rich cultural history of the Benin people. Tourists can take a visual excursion through the varied collections and relive the artistic culture of the people. The museum showcases ancient, modern, and contemporary artistic ingenuity, not only of the people of Edo State, but of the major cultures of Nigeria. The Benin Museum is one of many tourist attractions in Edo State. It's also significant archaeologically as its location falls within the wider site of the Oba's Palace. The museum also serves as an intermediary between the people, custom, and traditions. Lots of people get to know about the custom, tradition, and history of both themselves and other cultural groups through the museum.
A museum is a library of antiquities and monuments. It is illustrative of past history to lubricate the present generation's idea about past events. Every nation state, every society has its own history. And when time has passed, it is only normal that they should be kept like artifacts in a museum. In the advanced countries, in England and France, you will see castles, you will see landmarks, and these places become tourist centers. When somebody is visiting, you will pay money to visit the tomb of Napoleon, the site of the Battle of Waterloo. If you go to Moscow, you will see the body of Lenin in the Red Square, etc., etc. So, museum is a money-yielding venture and promotes tourism. As nobody will go to important places that you will not be taking round the areas of the historical importance of that nation. In Nigeria here, we always think of the present, which should not be. Everyone has a past. It is the past that gives birth to the present, and the present will give birth to the future. There is no events, there will be no history. So tourism is predicated on antiquities. People want to have an idea of how the world lives, how the people were, because those people put in their best. Even in ancient history, we have the wonders of the world. It has increased now, pyramids here and there. Nigeria itself had an empire, Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Benin, empire, etc., Sokoto Caliphate. These ones will be well preserved. Even the mausoleum, that is to say, where our heroes were buried, ought to be monumental. In the Soviet Union, you can line up for 10 hours in a long queue trying to see the body of Lenin, who initiated the October Revolution of 1917. So we should be able to remember our heroes past so that their labors will not be in vain. Older generation must have visited the museum. I always go to our own museum here in Ring Road, Babrami Square. And more so, the older you are, the more conversant you will be with what is supposed to be in the museum, at least in your generation. So it behoves the older ones, the parents, grandparents, to take their children along, so that the children and the younger ones will be taken there, and they can their own go visiting. It should not be left for only the visiting people from other nations or other states. That is how tourism is done. We always regard it as guided tour. In other climes in Europe, in America, once you are on official visit, once you come, a guide will be given to you to take you to the important places before you even try to do what you come for.
I would like to know your name.
My name is Joy.
Joy. Okay, have you ever been to the museum before?
No.
What are your reasons?
I don't have any reason.
You don't have any reasons for not being to the museum?
Yes.
Okay, as you can see, she hasn't been to the museum. She doesn't even know what a museum looks like. So we'll have to go to somewhere to see what another person will be saying about the museum. Please, have you been to the museum before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so when you went to the museum, what were your experience?
Well, I saw a couple of things, but that's been a very long time ago.
Oh, a very long time ago.
Say about 4 to 5 years ago. At the museum at Ring Road.
Okay, that's King Square, right?
Yeah, that was the one I went to.
Okay.
It was nice. I saw some things, what I've been hearing of from my childhood. I saw some very good monuments in the place.
So what's your advice to those persons that haven't been to the museum before, youths like yourself?
Well, I will only advise they should try and go there. There's nothing dangerous there, nothing harmful there. It's a very wonderful sight to behold. So I advise them to take out time, one of the weekends, visit the place and have a nice experience, even have a photograph of the place.
Okay, that has been Chris, and he said he has visited the museum. So I will be going to another place to check out someone that hasn't been to the museum before. What's your name?
Jude.
Jude.
Yes.
Okay. Have you been to the museum before? Have you seen a museum before?
No.
So you haven't seen a museum in Benin City before?
No.
Okay, and why is that? Why is the reason? Why do you feel you've not seen a museum before?
I don't feel, but I know that I will go and see it, but not now.
What's your name?
That's a college of Giwonyi.
Okay. Have you been to the museum before?
It will be, I think, almost about 10 years ago.
So what will you advise those persons that haven't been to the museum before?
At least I would like to, maybe those people, at least maybe sometimes they just go there just to look the zoo look like. And it is, but maybe one of these I would like to go there one to go and look how it look like. Sometimes I need to watch it at the telly, but because I don't have too much time to go there, that's why I couldn't make it to go there. But I will try one day, maybe between the weekend, I would like to go there to go and experience what happened there.
Have you visited the museum before?
Yeah, yes, once.
Oh, just once?
Yes.
And what were your experience?
It was nice. We went to different sections. Went to the art section, those ancient arts and other things. It was nice. It was really a great experience.
Students, we have to learn the history of that place and educate the younger ones. These are money-spinning ventures because they be artifacts and their remnants cannot be washed away with the sand of time. The culture is the modus vivendi, that is to say the way of life of a group of people. It differs from place to place and it lubricates what they believe in. So both culture, society, history, antiquities, all should be gathered in a sacred place like a museum, which is a library of antiquities, historiography, etc., to let the younger ones know, imagine, and visualize, conceptualize how their forefathers lived.
The advice I would give about the museum is it's a place to be kept for the generation yet unborn. It's my advice that the curator and the people in charge of museum should take proper care of it. It is unfortunate that some museums, they have stolen a lot of things from the museum, which is very bad. It's something to be kept for historical purposes. It will surely lift up our culture For example, if you go there, you will see some of our past obas. And the curator there will be able to explain what they have done during their period to you.
The Act of Benin is the product of an urban royal court, symbolizing the power, mystique, grandeur, continuity and endurance of the ruling dynasty and its governing institutions. Benin Act has been resilient in the face of political, economical, social and religious changes. The Benin Museum through time has remained a key tool in keeping and preserving artifacts of the Benin culture. Benin indeed is a tourist paradise with tourist attractions like the Benin Museum, Ososo Hills, Somorika Hills, a molten statue, the tomb of Asuru, Igun Street, the Benin Moat, just to mention a few. Indeed, this is our beautiful place and our heritage.
Okay, and of course that has been the museum on our program today on Heritage. I believe you have been educated, you have been enlightened, and not forgetting being informed. Now, wherever you are, certainly you know more about the museum. Next week is another time. Till then, always remember that you should always keep your culture and heritage. So next week, do have a wonderful, blessed day.